How difficult is Valentine's Day for Flower Store?
Well, it's like the most complicated week. There is always a failed delivery,
Yes.
right? More than failed delivery is called first attempt failed. That's a big issue because then from a customer point of view, and I totally understand it,
Yeah,
it's not the
exactly.
delivery partner failing, it's Flower Store. Even if you try to do everything in your power, there will never be a thing as 100% perfect. When I see a customer that is not happy, it's like hurts a bit on the side.
Yeah.
Like, and to me, what we need to try to understand is what could have we done to make it better. Also, sometimes, like I like to share, like with the team on some of these, like saying, like you may feel, that you are doing an order and that's an order. To realize that behind every order there is a story of two people trying to connect. So I think, like all that positive feedback helps, a lot.
When did you hit your first million in revenue?
Every big success story starts with one thing.
The Benta.
Man, the first thing I ever sold was...
We wanted to work with the call centers and the BPOs.
I feel if tinuloy ko siya, grabe, feel ko magbo-boom din siya now.
First sale, so medyo maliit.
This is the show where we talk to the people who turned that first sale into an empire.
I know that once we set the systems in place, then we can go higher.
It's so easy to glamorize being a boss, a girl boss. But then they forget about, rolling up their sleeves, doing the dirty work.
Nakatikim na ako ng ganong kalaking monthly sales. Ayoko nang pakawalan.
We dive deep into the real systems, the raw struggles, and the biggest lessons learned from those who made it from nothing to something.
Don't overthink it. Just get out there and do it. Bring it out on the market and get that first customer.
You've heard the brand?
Now meet the boss. Welcome to Benta Bosses by QuotableAI.
Mga boss, question. When was the last time you received flowers? Or better yet, kailan ka nga ba huling nagbigay ng flowers?
Parang last year pa yata.
Parang kailangan mo ata sila today.
Dahil kung bulaklak ang usapan, mapaandito ka sa Pilipinas or OFW, you might have extended your care, gratitude, apologies, and especially love through their services.
Tama. And this all came from a founder that wasn't even supposed to sell flowers in the first place. Today, we have a special guest who has navigated his way from Spain to the hearts of many Filipinos and the Asian Pacific.
Let us all welcome the founder on the chair today. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Saul Molla, and I'm the founder of Flowerstore.ph and Potico.ph.
Welcome.
Now, for those hearing it for the first time, Saul, what is Potico and Flowerstore.ph?
Yes.
And who do you sell it to?
So we are a gifting platform. Our goal is every time you want to do a gift to any kind of person, company, anyone that you need to express your emotions, we want to have the right product.
Okay, that's so good to know. But let's get to know you first. Before coming here to the Philippines, what country did you come from and what were you doing before?
Yeah, so I have had a bit of I always say, a weird career because, I'm Spanish. I studied aerospace engineering, then did an internship in Airbus, but I kind of didn't really like it because I found it too technical.
Right.
So then I moved into consulting, was doing, marketing and commercial projects around Latin America and Europe. And then at some point, I was feeling like I wanted to try something very different, and I decided to look for opportunities both in Asia and in the internet space. And that was how I ended up finding a position in Manila.
Okay, let's all come back to that family background. I know that you mentioned you had a business. So can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, so, well, I grown in a very little town in Spain. And we have always had a family business selling materials for construction. Imagine sand, cement, bricks, very, like a very small business. We have always been like the family people working. On the good moments, 3 to 4 employees. On the bad moments, the family working. And then, since I was 12 years old, I remember, like working there during holidays, working there, on the weekends. So I think, that kind of also puts a bit like in your brain, that having a business is something normal.
Yeah, okay. But you also mentioned that you studied aerospace engineer. You were an aerospace engineer. So isn't that an exciting career? I mean, when I heard about it, I was like, what? That's quite interesting.
Yeah. So, like the reality is that I needed to choose what to study when I was like 17 years old. And back then, like you really don't know what you want to do with your life. And a bit of my thinking was like, if I do, aerospace engineering and later on I want to go to more business, I can do it, because it has a good reputation and it's pretty complicated, so it teaches you. But maybe if I do business and I later want to go to aerospace, I cannot do it, And that was kind of a bit of the thinking. I'm also of the opinion that you need to try the things before, to be able to know if you like it or not. And that's, like why I also did like some internship while still studying. And unfortunately, unfortunately or fortunately, I discovered that I didn't really like, like too technical of a job, probably like for me, like too structured on a lab, and that was kind of when I decided just by the time I graduated that probably like I should change, and try something different.
Right.
All right. Why not take up on the family business?
Well, because, like my town was very small. So I have always said like...
You want something else.
Yeah, I didn't really like my town because in terms of opportunity, now I love going back to spend like a week. But once I'm like 2 weeks there, the reality is like, nothing happened, is boring. I think that's also why I have always later enjoyed like very big city. And that's probably like what I love later, like Manila, because like it's so big that it has endless opportunities.
That's
while
true.
If I compare it with my town, it's like
it's a lot different.
The two opposites.
Right.
But I'm just really curious, Saul, because from aerospace to sales, how did that shift happen?
Yeah, so like because I have always been very good with numbers, and with data, etc. I remember I applying, to consulting because they always look for a lot of analysts, people that can be reviewing like data of companies and trying to find things. And I decided to enter there, especially because it will give me the chance of exploring many different industries, and basically like learning from, also to try to understand what I really like or what I really want. And that was kind of, like the company where I was working was mostly focused, on doing go-to-market projects, like on pricing, always, like using a lot of data to try to understand what are the conclusions. And a bit on that was how I actually ended up here, like in the Philippines, because my position when I actually came to the Philippines was as head of pricing of Lazada.
Okay. Interesting. So you got into Lazada first in the Philippines. So that's how you ended up here.
Yeah, so actually like I applied for I was looking for opportunities in Asia and related with internet, because those were two trends that I could see, like really booming. And then, I remember I applied for a position in Singapore and they told me like, we have the exact same position in Manila and it's urgent. Will you be interested? And 2 weeks later I was here. So
what? That's quite interesting. So what was your position in Lazada?
Yeah, so I started, leading like the department of pricing in Lazada, especially like I'm talking, this was like 2016, so long time ago. And back then, like we were checking our team that ensuring that all prices were competitive, which also back then was relatively easy because there was not much competition.
That's true.
And then, like after 6 months, they also offered me to lead like the department of business intelligence, because I was really like, I will say that what I enjoy the most is, data and numbers. And that was, like how I kind of make a position and started like my career here in the Philippines.
How old were you in 2016?
Yeah, so when I came to the Philippines, I was 27 years old. So that was kind of, I was at an age in which I was starting to see some of my friends starting to get married. So I was like, if I want to do something still radically different, I think that, before the 30s or around the 30s is still a good age because,
Yes.
probably now I wouldn't do it. But it was still like a good moment to try something new because, if things didn't work out, I could always go back, and
That's
there wouldn't
true.
be really like any drama.
Do you have any idea about what Lazada is prior to joining Lazada?
No, I remember reading, they were saying we are the Amazon of Southeast Asia. And to me, like that, like I remember reading that. And then I remember, like reading that they had already raised like money from some
Right.
international investors.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
that was kind of everything I knew.
Yeah, so I remember earlier you mentioned about your love for numbers.
Mhm.
How did it, came about? When you were young, are you really into numbers? And-
Yeah, I think like I have, like always like enjoyed maths, like and,
Yeah.
and really numbers. I don't really know from where it comes, but yeah, as a kid, like I will enjoy like being like with my parents, and kind of on the business, like the numbers and everything. And I remember, my mom makes fun that as a kid, like typical that your titos or your lolos will give you like some money.
Yeah.
And I would like to keep, like track, even like
Yeah.
with
Oh.
7-8 years of what I have, what have I spent. So I think, like it comes like already as a kid.
Pero grabe, no? Bata pa lang siya. Talagang he knows
Yes.
already what he kind of wants. And I think it's by accident
Mhm.
that you got into that one. But what do you think is the importance of your journey in Lazada? You focusing on finance,
Mhm.
most
Yeah.
of it.
So actually like the finance jump also came a little bit like by chance because I was
Uh-huh.
in business intelligence. They were looking for a new CFO. I
Right.
was helping the interim CFO to prepare all the numbers. It
Yeah.
would be faster. And after 6 months that they couldn't find anyone, they told me, hey, why don't you learn accounting and the parts that you don't have? And then, like take over. So that was, I think, that I have always really enjoyed learning,
Right.
learning
Mhm.
something new, being excited about something that I don't know how to do and how can I go there. So I think, that Lazada really gave me like the learning about e-commerce, like it's like I didn't really know like the deep inside on how
yeah.
to think. And then also from a finance point of view that I didn't have like that accounting background before
Right.
I really kind of do like a intense master for a few months learning already on the business. So I think that these were like the basis for later, like launching like our business.
Yeah. So what was the most valuable learning from there that you were able to take on in your gifting business?
Yeah, for us, I would say, like the learnings on how to scale a business in e-commerce.
Okay, that's quite good because it's a very difficult industry,
Yes.
and I think e-commerce is very very challenging.
Hmm.
Especially
Super.
you
Yep.
started prior to the pandemic.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So what was the key point for you where after Lazada, what did you do that made you think, okay, maybe I'm gonna do e-commerce, and what was the specific idea?
Yeah, so I was still, within Lazada when I was thinking about, okay, what to do next. And gifting as a use case, we knew that it was something that we had always struggled in Lazada and that any, big platform, because when you are buying for another person, if you are buying for a birthday or for an anniversary, you need to know when it's going to arrive, because if the
Exactly.
birthday is that day, and also the recipient is a surprise. So
Yeah.
you need, the process is not the same. You cannot send, like just like the rider and say, I leave your package in the lobby, because then you will be like, the recipient will be like, what is
Exactly.
this?
Yeah.
And then, like some of the most common categories in gifting, like flowers or like cakes,
Mhm.
are like perishable or very delicate products
Yeah.
that you cannot really sell on a big platform. So in one hand, like I knew that gifting was something that a big player will struggle to do. And I knew because I had been on the other side. And also I wanted to do something in e-commerce, but that at the same time, I wanted it niche enough that the big players couldn't come to compete, but
Right.
still big enough, that at
To
a
have
regional
that, yeah.
level could be, like a big company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was, like trying to find that mix on, I want a niche, but I don't want it too niche. you know.
Yeah, agree.
Let's talk about a little more of that later on. I just want to go back a little bit.
Mhm.
Like, how long have you worked for Lazada?
So in Lazada, I did like 2.5, almost 3 years.
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
It's quite a long
Yeah.
time.
So
Who did you meet along the way
Hmm.
in Lazada that were kind of influenced, that really influence you?
Yeah, so for me, like actually like Inanch, that was like the founder, one of the, like the founder of Lazada Philippines and one of the original 6 co-founders of the whole Lazada group. He used to be my boss, so he was also a person I had like, I will talk a lot and work a lot. And then that was, like the person also that by the time he was leaving, I started thinking like, okay, if you are leaving, I'm leaving, why don't we start together? And he became, like my partner together with another partner that we also have, like, but basically like I find, like my partner in Flower Store was also like one of my previous boss.
Right.
So all of you left together all at the same time?
Yeah, but so he actually left a little bit early. I left like 1 month or 2 months after, because I think also when you start leaving, when you start seeing people leaving to kind of do other things, it also triggers you to reconsider, it's like, should I try also doing something new? And that was also, the summer that I was becoming 30, was exactly on my 30. So I was like, it's still now a good moment to try things. I can always go back, like to a corporate. And also, like Lazada has experienced a little bit of that change from a startup into a more corporate structured way. And I will say that I think I enjoy more the chaos of a startup, and the moving fast. I already tend, I find corporates a little bit more boring, maybe for my pace. And that was, like a bit of the thinking, like, okay, let's try it.
Okay, so when did Flower Store actually come about? Like after Lazada, how did it happen?
So it was, like in July 2018. So it's gonna be now 8 years. We are gonna celebrate 8 years, like in a few weeks. And then that was, like wanted to do something in gifting, and then like. Also, gifting is a very broad category. So we were like, let's start somewhere. And it's like, where to start? We were of the, like thinking of the categories. We decided to start with flowers because it was the most complicated category. So then our thinking was like, if we are able to figure out how to do this, how to scale this, later we can start adding some of the other categories in gifting. Like if we know how to do flowers at a scale, later we can add plush toys or, like personalized or cakes. But if, you learn how to do, I don't know, perfumes or plush toys, and later you want to do flowers, it's a lot more complicated. That's how we got started with Flower Store. So Flower Store was kind of our MVP for gifting. And we wanted, like, to see if we could figure out how to do flowers at a scale.
O boss, mukhang ready ka na sa unang benta mo. Teka, easy lang.
Simula pa lang yan dito sa Benta Bosses.
Papunta na tayo sa real talk ng business na dapat nyong matutunan. Dito lang yan
sa Benta Bosses by QuotableAI.
Yeah, can we emphasize more for our viewers? I'm sure they're all very interested with how the process came about. So why was gifting difficult to do? And what was the opportunity to solve it?
Yeah, gifting, is very particular because usually you already have a buyer and a recipient. That's already the first difference versus like your normal e-commerce. The person who is buying is different than the person who is receiving. So then the buyer needs to think into something that is going to resonate with the recipient. So already, like a horizontal platform like Shopee or Lazada is not really good at it. If you now go and you put birthday, I can tell you are going to get 1 million results, but it will be very difficult for you to find something that you think it resonates with the person you are buying it for. And, like offering like the right product in gifting was like one of those things that we knew that it was not good, not properly done on the platforms. But then also, like then all the other particularities that the operations has in gifting, that is, you need to send on a specific day at a specific hour because you need to make sure that, it's the occasion date. But then also the recipient is going to be wherever you send it. Like most of the people, maybe sending it to their office and you need to ensure that they are there. Then also, like you need to make sure that the gift looks as a gift. If you send an ugly orange pouch or like a, like how a an order comes grabbed like from the platforms, or also, like sending flowers, cakes, or a personalized product. Like usually you cannot do this on a platform. So I would say that there are, when you actually look, gifting is estimated to be 10% of the e-commerce sales, like purchase for another person. For a platform, doesn't make sense, like to adapt their processes just to cater this 10% because they are doing the 90%. But for us, it makes sense we have more complicated operational processes, but because we are catering like to this subset of people buying for another person.
Yeah. Pero like, ang na-realize ko dun, sobrang daming complications. And for you to start it with flowers, what was the trigger to think about flowers as a product?
Yeah, we thought, that actually when we were looking like around the players that were doing it, we saw that they were still like what we call like the old school, like e-commerce, that they were many of the things that we were doing in Lazada, that we could implement here, like an example, like doing flash sales, doing same-day delivery, doing paid marketing, like some of these things. The players, they were not doing it also because they, or they didn't know better or they didn't feel like the need. So there was a space, that we believe also that from a margins point of view, they were selling like very, very expensive. So we were, like we can come selling relatively cheap, to try to cater like very fast, like a position in the market. And then, like I will say that it was probably like big of a challenge enough,
That's
like to try it. Probably like if you have told me, like do lot of an easier category, I wouldn't have feel that excited. I think, that flowers was kind of a complicated and exciting category enough. And then, like also living abroad, and living here, I had experience, like what it means, like sending flowers to my mom or, or to some family member and seeing how, like easy it is like to make happy like another person. I always say like, in Lazada, when we were selling, like a phone case, there is no beauty, like behind it. But with us, every order, or not only us, in gifting, every order is really like two people trying to connect like with each other.
So what does it take for you to master flowers? You said it was the most complicated category in your industry. So what did it take for you to really organize how a sender can order from you and then the recipient can actually get it?
A lot of trial and error, a lot of, and I will say, like we are still not 100% on, because there are always still some of the challenges with supply chain. I commented sometimes like one of the challenges in flowers, is because anyone can kind of start selling flowers, go to Dangwa, buy some components and sell 5 bouquets to their friends. But the problem comes, like when you want to do consistently more than 100, 200, 500 orders every day, because, you need to ensure that the supply is consistent every single day. Also, like one of the challenges is that you can sell things for the next month. I'm already selling orders now for Valentine's next year, but I still don't know what the prices will be, and well, for Valentine's, yes, but for example, it can happen that an order that I'm selling in 2 months, there may be a typhoon on one of the areas, and some of the supply of some of the components may start, may not be okay, or when it arrives, it doesn't pass the quality check. So I think that there are so many variables that you need to play with a lot of safety nets, and try to, that's what makes this industry complicated to do at a scale. I think that it's an industry relatively easy to do at a small scale, but I think the challenges come on how to do it at a scale that then also makes an offering like a reliable service all the time.
Right.
All right. I think we can come back to that topic later. I just wanted to ask, when did Potico come into play?
Yeah, so actually, like Potico, like the idea of doing it was like since day one. Like we were like, we launch flowers. If it works, we launch like a platform for everything. But then the reality, is that as you knew, COVID came before we did that. Actually, like it was around the time we were going to do the change. And then, like we started getting focused about survival more than actually like about changing brands, changing platforms. And then, like because Flowerstore was starting to work like pretty good, as a brand. And then the reality is that we already did the shift of Potico by the time COVID was pretty advanced. And then, like Flowerstore was already working too good that it was scary to kill, on the sense, it's like when you have something that is working well, it doesn't make sense to kind of kill it. So we took the decision in the Philippines to do two brands. So from a front end, from a customer facing, is two different brands, and you can see. But actually, like from a back-end operational way, we are the same company. And actually, for example, if you go to our app, you will see that at the bottom there is, if you are on the Flowerstore app, you can shift to Potico, and if you are in Potico, you can shift. So still, even like we try to explain customers that you can find the two things. So for us, Flowerstore is more focused on flowers, while Potico is like more focused on any kind of gift. But actually, like when we already launched on the other markets that we are also present, on the other markets we are only Potico. So Flowerstore is a brand that is exclusive in the Philippines. And because, with COVID, we took that decision of keeping the brand.
Yeah, but for Potico, do you still remember the first sale when you launched?
Yes, like because Potico was actually already like 2023. And then, like the first sale was like a cake.
All right.
For Flowerstore, I'm quite curious. Do you still remember like the first set of bouquet?
Yeah, like from actually like the first bouquet was like a dozen of flowers, but that was actually placed by a friend, because at the end, like was still like when we were testing really processes, automations, and I just shared first with a friend saying like, hey, we just launched. If anyone wants to order, and back then I think like we had maybe 5 products live on the website versus the 1,000 that we have today.
But how did you feel, or when you were testing, since it was the first order and you said it was complicated? So how did you feel when you got the first order and then you were going to test out your process and how it's going to end up?
Yeah, I still remember like the very beginning because we were operating in Shopify. Every time you will get an order, you will hear like that bell, ding! Like the bling. Yeah. And then, it was like every time you hear the bell, you will go see the details, read everything. Okay, now we need this supply. Send someone to Dangwa to buy the things that we need. Prepare the, back then we will still write the orders on the whiteboard. We will write the message by hand. And then, so it was really like, when we launched the company, we were four people, really. So it was really, everything be done like totally by us. And, that's how you start learning, like, okay, we can automate this, and slowly learning.
Yeah, now that we are getting into it, Saul, before we get into the present day Flowerstore, let's go back to the systems when you guys started. Why was Shopify the platform you chose?
Well, because I think like to launch an e-commerce fast is like, I still believe that is the best platform. Like as long as you are selling something that is like relatively standard. Which later on at some point, is like, it turns out also to be the challenge that we were having because, like gifting has so many particularities that even Shopify, like have trouble. You need to start putting so many plugins, etc. So at the beginning was Shopify and Google Sheets. And basically like I remember Zapier was actually like sending the orders, writing them in Google Sheets. That was, back then that was our system. And I know because I was the one setting it up.
But how difficult was it to do it manually?
Well, at the very beginning, it was, I wouldn't say that it was complicated because the first days, like we were doing 2 orders, 3 orders, 5 orders. So the main limitation was not, like that system. I remember, like the limitations start coming like when we did, like I still remember the first day that we did 100 orders. And that day, like already, like writing on the whiteboard, etc. We were like, we cannot do and we started doing like what we call now that the delivery acknowledgement receipt. That is like a paper that when an order arrives gets printed, so already has a part for the florist for them to know what to.
Right.
So, kind of automating that part of when an order arrives, we don't need to write what it is for production to know what they need to produce. So.
Right. So even if it was very manual, did you ever felt like when you were doing that number of orders or those numbers of orders, did you ever felt like, oh my God, this is going to grow. This is going to be big?
Yeah, like I think especially like the first months, I would say like we launched in July and July till that Valentine's, like even Christmas, etc. It was like continuous massive growth. Also the reality, is because we were putting money on paid marketing, so we had made like a decision, of we start already with some funds and we are gonna, like go, because we wanted to try, like very fast and hard to see if really like the potential, existed. So like the first months, like I remember the growth was crazy fast, and like it was very normal, like our first year, like 2-3 a.m. every day, because it was the only way of catching up with, because it's like the whole day we will be doing operations and doing orders and helping. And then during the night was when we were really, like trying to prepare the content for marketing for tomorrow. And, like these kind of things. We were doing it after 8 p.m. when kind of like the operations was over.
Yeah.
With the growing numbers in sales, so how is the system keeping up? Like Shopify, how is it keeping up with your
I wouldn't say
workflow?
That it was really keeping up. It was back then, I remember it was always looking for workarounds, like, now we need to do this. Okay, maybe we try like
something
this, and it was painful, but to me at that point I was of the opinion, that as long as from a customer they don't realize, on the back end we can deal with suffering. Because to me, suffering that comes from growth is a good suffering. It's like you can figure out things while doing some of them. And then, but I remember back then, like also website going down for a few hours, like those kind of things. Every time we will do one change, you will try. Because, now we have like a whole set before launching to production and in tech development, you do it in a development environment. Back then, when we will do some change, we will apply directly on the website. We will check if it works. A lot of times it wouldn't work, and a lot of rollbacks. So I think that after 5 months, I did like one hire already for tech. That, because back then I was like, okay, I cannot do the, because I knew that I was my own limitation for tech growth and to automate many things. We needed to bring, like someone with adept, like with skills. But I would say that until this person came, the first month, it was. But I also think that it's good to pass through there, because then you also understand what are the challenges, like firsthand.
I see. Can you tell more about how difficult it is to be utilizing Shopify at first? Like can you tell more our viewers about it? Like the process, what were the pain points and the limitations?
So some of the challenges that we faced, is number one, already like to have different delivery dates with different time frames, and then being able to block some days, because for example, one day we may already be full capacity. We can those kind of things. I remember that was one challenge, but that one you could fix it more or less with some plugins. The number two and one of the big challenges that we faced is that when we launch, because we also launch operations in Cebu and in Davao, but the reality is that because the supply is being done at a local level, like the prices of the flowers in Manila may be different than in supply than in Cebu or in Davao. And also even the products that we offer, because for example, we may have tulips in Manila, but we may not have available in Davao. So then we need to offer different products and different prices at a city level. That was something that Shopify couldn't offer different. And then the number 3 is that when we had like big campaigns coming, like Valentine's, Valentine's, the reality is that the COGS, like multiply by 5 to 10. So then, our prices need to increase. So then what we need to have is different prices depending on the day that you are going to deliver. But in Shopify, so what I want is that if I'm in December, but you order for today, I want to sell it, let's say, a dozen of roses at $1,499. But if it's for Valentine's, I want to sell it at $2,499. In Shopify, you needed to choose, either you had one price or the other, or you needed to create different products, and then you will block one. But from a customer perspective, it's very confusing. Complicated. Why this product is not available? I will say that those were the 3 main limitations that for us, and then also that it reached one point in terms of orders that when you put together these 3 challenges, with that you are paying on a per order basis, we were like, with when we were spending already over 100,000 pesos on fees a month to Shopify, we were like, with this amount, we can have our tech team and develop a solution that it's really ad hoc for us and fixes these challenges.
All right. So that led you with the decision, like you mentioned earlier, that you've already hired someone to fix that tech infrastructure, right? So what did they implement to improve the system?
Yeah, so actually like our first system was not even the Shopify. Our first system was on the back end, or operation system, a system to have internal visibility on every order that it's entering, what do we need to buy, from our supplies, what productions need to produce, what time frame, when do we need to ship all. So actually our first system was like the operational, operational system. And only once that was already working, we decided to migrate from Shopify into our own, front end.
Right. So how do you think this affected you, especially on the delivery side of things? Because I know like operations wise in the back end, like producing the order, but what is it like for you to produce something and deliver it to someone? So what was the solution for
the
that?
logistics aspect.
That's actually like one of the challenges, especially on the first day, on the first day, on the first year, we were still relying a lot, on on-demand players like Lala Move, Grab, etc. And, on day-to-day, we were not having major issues. The only big issue that we will still face is that, sometimes the rider will still call the recipient saying, hey, I bring flowers for you, and will spoil the surprise. So we needed, to train every time the rider saying this is a surprise, only call when you are already there, kind of teaching. So this was one of the challenges, but still, something we could work out with training. But then when Christmas week arrived, we start facing the issue in which we couldn't book riders. And we were, having the orders ready, in our office, but no riders to delivering. So that was the moment, we decided that we needed to change something and that we couldn't depend only on demand, because on the moments of big peaks, it's like, and we started looking, for delivery partners, some agencies that can provide riders, etc., that can be delivering more exclusively for us, and that they can, move with the volumes that we can.
So how do you think was this new system much more effective?
Yeah, it was much more effective on the sense, that we could, when you have riders that work exclusively for you, then we can, you can teach exactly what they want. Also, for example, there are many times that the recipient may not be available because, or we cannot find the recipient because the sender doesn't know the exact address. This happens many times. Right. So what we want is that, if you are the rider, you are already there. We don't want you to say, there was no one, I cannot find that I live. Yeah. So we had, we have a 15-minute rule that we call. It's like when the rider arrives, he needs to notify they couldn't find it. Then our customer service will contact the sender to say, hey, the rider is there. What should we do? Can you contact the recipient? So these if we are the ones, that we are working with the riders more on exclusivity, we can do these things because we can define an SOP with the delivery partner. But when we were working with on-demand players, that I understand, if you're a Lalamove rider, what you want to do is deliver the fastest, because that's how you are making. Then you cannot be asking them, you need, if the recipient is not there, you need to wait. Because that's also not fair for the rider. So I think that it gives us the flexibility on defining how do we want the delivery. And the last mile is very important in gifting, because the rider is the one that is giving the gift.
Exactly.
And, if he gives it being annoyed, the recipient already is going to start having like a bad experience. So you want, like the rider to delivering on a happy way.
Tama yun As in, pag kunwari naka-receive ka, tapos bad trip yung driver. Parang ikaw naka-receive ka ako flowers, pero bad trip siya. So, ang lakas ng difference, or ang laki ng difference when it's the rider who actually delivers the surprise. So, he's the one who completes everything, diba?
This episode is supported by Shipley.
For businesses that pack and ship orders every day, having the right supplies matter.
Shipley is a trusted packaging and shipping supplies brand for Philippine businesses, offering quality products, competitive prices, and reliable shipping for teams that need to keep operations moving.
For boxes, mailers, bubble wrap, and shipping supplies, visit Shipley.ph.
Pero from that development of the back end of Flowerstore, I would like to learn from your perspective, coming from Spain. What did you learn about Filipinos and gifting in general, and maybe flowers or sending flowers?
Yeah, I think that on many things, like Filipinos are Spanish are alike. That is like, I think that very family oriented,
That's very
care
true.
a lot, like about the other people. And also, like I think from an emotional point of view is something, that I have always seen. I think, like Spanish and Latinos overall are emotional, but I think that Filipinos are even more emotional. And I think, that's actually like something good in the sense, that many times, like you want to share something with other people. But I also find interesting, that Filipinos are sometimes emotional, but also shy. And sometimes they, they have so many things they want to say, but they don't know how to say it. And then on that way, I feel that we are kind of a platform to enable that sharing on feelings, like also like many times when you cannot be there, and we know that in the Philippines happens a lot. There are a lot of OFWs that are outside of the country, but there is some family member, having a birthday, or having an anniversary or a graduation. Or, you just want to tell them, you are thinking of them, and they don't have, like many ways. And they could give a call. And actually, like sometimes I say, like, give a call, tell your loved ones that, you love them, you miss them. Every time, you don't even need to be something material, but, sometimes something material, and something even affordable, it can be like a few hundred pesos, can really, because that surprise when someone is not expecting something, I think that this is something that the recipient will always remember. I think, that when some friends also sometimes ask me, like, what do you suggest? Like, actually, like, I think that anniversaries, birthdays are important, and for example, I send my mom flowers always on her birthday. But I also think that a random day is important because on a birthday, people can be expecting it somehow, even if they don't say. But on a random day, it's like the day that people will remember forever, because it's like this person didn't have any need of making me feel that way, but they made an effort, and it's like, that's really, I think that's really what the recipient appreciates. It's about the thinking and the effort more than about the gift itself.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
Yeah. So with that in mind, so there is a season where this culture all culminates, right? Take us through what happens, where I really believe you guys are the most active. Valentine's Day. How difficult is Valentine's Day for Flowerstore?
Yeah, well, it's like the most complicated week always of the year.
You say it's gonna be like a full week of
for
busy operations.
For us, 1 week already 24/7, like operating 24 hours. But actually, our Valentine's starts in August, so we start already in August preparing Valentine's. Because there is like a very big part from planification, on like volumes. There are so many different pieces. Like to give you an example, like this, last Valentine's here, like in the Philippines, we were operating from 10 different warehouses. We had, over 1,500 people, over 1,500 working directly with us, on production, assembly, dispatch, over 1,000 riders, delivering for us. And this is only one part of the business, because actually now our business from a few years ago, we have a part of the business that we do ourselves, like we source, transform and produce. But at the same time, we also work with many merchants, and small companies that they want to offer products on gifting, and they sell on our platform. So we also have over 300 merchants selling through us, and we give them the order. So there are so many different pieces on the puzzle, that it's and it's always very complicated, because there are even unexpected things. Like this year, for example, was the first year that it rained the whole morning, making life very complicated for our riders. Some delays, etc. And there are one of the challenges is that there are always a lot of things you can control, but there are always some things that are unexpected, and you need to plan already on plan A, plan B, plan C on some of the things. But because of the volumes that we do during Valentine's, is really like where the challenges comes from it. But it's also, we need to have high volumes to be able to enable economies of scale and be able to try to offer lower prices, especially if you have ordered in advance, etc. So it's always, like
a dance between two things. But can you walk us through some delivery failures? Like during this year, it was raining. Customer retention, some customer service problems that you got during these days.
You and unfortunately on this space, and I have talked with some of the biggest players in the world, and they have shared the same, is like on a normal, on Lazada, Shopee, there is always a failed delivery, right? More than failed delivery is called first attempt failed. That is like they try to deliver, and
but
in gifting is even higher on normal days, because the recipient, doesn't know that he's gonna receive something, so they may not be at work that day, or the address may be wrong because the sender didn't know exactly. There are so many things. So there are in one. And then, also sometimes the rider may not find them because sometimes the phone is not correct. So there are some variables that, on normal day-to-day, we know that there are always some circumstances in which an order may face an issue on first attempt. And that's where customer service, and what I believe is trying to be, like informing the customer on when there is some issue and telling them like, look, this is what is happening. What should we do? Because at the end is if the recipient is not available and the rider is there, to me is the sender the one that needs to say like, okay, so let's try to reattempt on another address, or let's bring it and let's try it tomorrow. There are always many options. But like also there can be issues that can be, like the issues from us that the rider may be facing, may not be able to find the address, or the rider may be on an accident on that day, and the orders, we have faced issues with some delivery partners, and I have an example, like last year on Valentine's, we actually work with 20 different delivery partners. So we split volumes of orders, try to also, minimize if there is any problem, how big the problem. And because of the rain, one of the partners had like less riders going to there that in theory they were going to go. And also it was on the weekend. So some of the people was not working with them, the people, that the team leaders. And a few hundreds of the orders that we have given them to deliver the night of the 13th, they couldn't deliver. They also didn't notify us until the 14th, 7 p.m. When we started seeing, that customer service was getting many complaints, many calls from those customers, you start identifying, from where the complaints are coming. And when you start seeing that a delivery partner starts popping up, you start seeing the things. And, that's a big issue because then from a customer point of view, and I totally understand it, it's not the delivery partner failing, it's Flowerstore.
Yeah.
And,
that's true.
For me, one of the harder parts to accept, especially at the beginning, is like, even if you try to do everything in your power, there will never be a thing as 100% perfect. And every time, when I read the feedback from the customers, when I see a customer that is not happy, it's like, it hurts a bit on the side. Like, and to me, what we need to try to understand is what could have we done to make it better, because, and for example, and this delivery partner, we had worked before for 5 years. So it was not, something. So now what we are trying to do this year is like, okay, let's work less with external delivery partners. Let's work more internally, that at least we have more control.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to come back to the solutions for their problems. But are there any supply chain solutions like for flowers themselves? And what did you do also in terms of like figuring out where the supply shortage is?
Yeah. So supply chain is one of the challenges, that we have. And the challenge comes that at the end, flowers is something, that in the Philippines grows like in farms, usually like in Benguet, Bukidnon, Claveria, Cagayan de Oro area. But then the reality, is that the farmers they don't have high tech. They depend on the weather on to know how much they are going to be able like to harvest. So then, like sometimes we cannot have we cannot have control on how much we are going to receive every day, at what prices, because also if next week there is a typhoon passing on Benguet and then the harvest is very low, then prices are going to go up because there is the demand that there is in the market is a lot higher than the supply. So because, for many years we have been struggling with this, and I will say that supply is one of the biggest struggles because a customer can place an order for next month ordering blue tulips.
Yeah.
But I don't know if in 1 month there is going to be any issue. So that's actually one of the reasons that we have restricted the number of flowers we sell, because there are some of them that I cannot ensure supply during the whole year. So now what we are trying to do, is working on 2 different ways. It's like in one side, we are doing verticalization. So we just started 8 months ago our own farm, and we are trying, to have more control on the whole process.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, we are starting to try doing direct importation and working a lot more with some international players.
Yeah. Okay. Pero grabe, no? Ang dami talagang moving parts. Parang for me, all we see are sometimes people who are also parang sad or frustrated that they ordered and then they never got it. But what we also don't realize as consumers, maraming parts yung nagmo-move.
Yes.
Grabe dun from the riders to the supply of the flowers to hindi ka sure kung may dadating na tulips kasi hindi rin sure yung farmer. So sobrang daming moving parts and I would feel the stress if I'm actually there.
That's the most critical part of the business, Vanya. With what Flowerstore is doing. Imagine the supply chain as well as logistics.
Exactly.
Diba? Grabe. That 2 main factors that affects the whole operations.
Right.
So I want to go back to the solution to delivery that you were telling us earlier, Saul. Can you walk us through more about the solution or the improvement on the systems that you're doing for the logistics side?
Yeah, so at the end, one of the things that we launched already 1.5 years ago, because, for example, on Valentine's, one of the challenges that we have when we onboard, and we bring 1,000 new riders is like, before, it's like, they will come to our warehouse, they will pick the orders, but on that moment that they leave the warehouse, in order to know where are they exactly, we will need to give them a call and ask, and then if a customer calls you and asks, you need to give them a call and ask. So what we did now is actually on the rider side, we have like an app that actually like we get like real-time visibility exactly on when. So we get when the rider arrives to the warehouse. So we already, from a dispatch point of view, assign what is like the best batch. That a batch is a group of orders on a specific area that they should get.
Right.
Then And then, like we get visibility on real time of, okay, so now he's on this exact location. He has already delivered the order number 2 and it's on the way to the number 3.
Oh,
so
amazing.
So customer can also have tracking once it's already on the delivery to them, similar to the way Grab or Foodpanda work. But for us, it's like we know that we are very dependent still on human processes. And as you mentioned, sourcing and last mile are our 2 biggest challenges as a company. I think is the challenge on any gifting company, but it's also the biggest advantage if you are able to figure out or do it much better than the market. But then, like, because there is a lot of this human factor, I believe, that part of the way you can solve it, not fully solve it, but it's through getting more visibility. Because with more visibility, you can define more control. And then also, like verticalization and trying to integrate part of the processes, do it ourselves. Because at the end, if we are managing everything ourselves, then I know that if we fail, we know what what does. But if it's some external partner, once the thing has happened, it's like you can try to find solutions for next time, but the damage also is already done.
Yes. To add to the supply chain discussion, I just have a petty question. Are there not enough flowers in the Philippines?
On normal day, and during low season, can be now, there is enough supply. But the moment that volume starts going out towards November, February, there is not enough. And the reason is, for example, if you plant roses, okay, and let's say that you have a farm and you plant 1,000 stems, the thing is that you are going to get 1,000 stems for 2 years, okay? But then, the volume is going to be the same for the whole year. So if you wanted to have a lot for Valentine's, then you will have a lot during the rest of the year that you are not going to be able to sell. So then people, kind of plan for what they can sell for the whole year. And that's the reason, why big occasions like Valentine's come. The reality is that
there are not
70-80% of the flowers need to come imported because there is not enough volume in the market. And this is also the reason, why prices increase so much, because on the flowers cost, the transportation is one of the biggest elements. So if you need to import it from another country, it'll automatically multiply by 3 versus like the cost of the flowers.
Yeah. You mentioned that you also read your feedback or customer feedback often. So how much do they inspire you to make sure that you're going to be better as a company? Like the solutions that you told us are quite amazing. It also gives visibility to the customer. But how does it inspire you overall?
Yeah, I also say, like, when you have a bad day, and everyone once in a while has a bad day, reading, like some of the feedback on some of the stories, that we are able to enable, like from a person that haven't talked with a family member for years, and then they decide to send a token, and this enable them to start, like talking again, or like the amount of couples, that have started because, I was shy to ask this girl and I sent something, like thanks. So these kind of stories, is like, it really like fuels you in the sense that there is a reason, behind. And I, like when we do town halls also sometimes, like I like to share like with the team on some of these, like saying, like you may feel, that you are doing an order and that's an order, but you need to realize that behind every order, there is a story of 2 people, like trying to connect. So I think, like all that positive feedback helps, a lot. And at the same time, I believe that the negative feedback is also useful, because it's like customer has felt that way because of some reason. To me, what I always try to understand is like, is there really something broken in the process? It's a human error. Try to understand why. And, customer is always right. It's like, why does customer feel that way? Where did we fail? There are times that we can fix things, and I share automatically with the team, with the responsible of where I think the error came. There are times, that if the issue is like, I don't know, with a rider, like the rider was like very annoyed, the only thing we can ask is to the agency, etc. Don't, train that rider, explain on why it is important, But I think it's good to read feedback.
Yeah, that's very true. Because what we see online is technically like a small percentage of the fulfilled orders. I'm just curious, how many orders did you ever get? Like the biggest order in the peak season?
Many tens of thousands.
Many things. What? Oh my God, imagine how many flowers go out on that same day. How many riders and how many people pack those flowers for it to get to you guys. So magkaroon tayo ng onting patience pala dito ha. Ang dami kong nalaman. I mean, ang dami talagang moving parts. Parang for us, I know it's a very, very special day, but we also have to put a little bit of understanding.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of factors that we really cannot control. Like what Saul said, there are a lot of parts na hindi naman nila kontrolado. They prepared for it, pero sometimes may mga mangyayari pa rin, which is unexpected.
Yeah, and given that season and also the volume, diba, the volume of orders, the team is actually doing their best to really extend, even give out, extra mile pa nga for sure our riders.
Extra love.
Extra love.
Diba?
Yan. So, yun, grabe.
This episode is supported by Shoppable Business.
When your company needs to buy for the office, operations, IT, facilities, or daily business needs, Shoppable Business helps make procurement easier.
With access to over 100 million products, competitive business pricing and payment terms, teams can source what they need without chasing suppliers one by one.
For the best prices and service on business supplies, visit Shoppable.ph.
But I want to get into the exciting part of our discussion. With all the challenges that you face in this industry or niche, what are the milestones? Let's start with sales. When did you hit your first million in revenue?
I think it was probably like after 3 months or 4.
What? 3 months? Wait lang. Sobrang galing. Amazing. Like you did really well. Amazing. But how did that teach you also in terms of manual operations? Because you were doing it on Shopify back then,
Yeah, so also it's true that because we were coming from Lazada, my mindset was kind of on the levels of Lazada, and you were like, this is still kind of
a small
peanuts,
one, exactly.
Small, but we were of the opinion like also in order to grow you need to invest, and we were like putting a lot of money on marketing, especially I remember on our first 3 months, we were doing things like peso sales, bouquet at 1 peso, to try to really, because our goal on the first months was really like try to bring people to try us. Also because it's the way you stress test your processes and start thinking, but so it was really like a lot of, but to me, like I always remember like that 100 orders day that actually like that day we had an issue and we already had like 4 florists back then, but one was on his rest day and was sick and we needed to do, like 100 order with only like 2 florists. That those 2 florists today, like they are our head florists already managing like the whole team. But I was like, wow, like that day, like it was the first day that operationally I was like, when you go to sleep on a day and you are like, I'm dead. Everything has happened. So yeah.
That was so fun. Pero ang galing ha. Imagine mo, even with those mga manual factors nga, yung mga tao kasi manual din talaga yan. Lalo na kung hindi tayo nakadepende sa system. Sometimes it's really the people who would bring you there. But let's talk about scaling. We heard that you've scaled to Vietnam, Thailand, and I think you're also in Singapore now. So can you talk us through that?
Yeah, so our goal from day one was actually like we wanted to do like a regional play. Also, because when we need to develop like a lot of our own tech, in order to do this, basically like we have already done the spend and invested on the tech development. Right. So and the problems, on the other countries are kind of the same. Yeah. So then we believe, that launching on another country is using part of what you have already spent anyway. Right. So then, like we went to Vietnam on 2019. Wow. Worst timing ever because we launched on December and then 2 months later COVID happened, so we tried to survive, etc. And 2021, once, like COVID was already over, we were kind of again on a good position. We decided to launch in Thailand. Right. And then last year, 2025, we launched on Singapore. So every 3-4 years, we have been, once we feel that things are starting to be a bit stable and boring again, we get some new challenge.
All right. But beyond the sales, let's talk about your personal milestone. I know you've sent a lot of orders across different countries, but what makes you proud today about Flowerstore?
Yeah, to me, I remember on the early days, that, as I commented, that bell, every time you will hear it, I will go to try to read everything, read the message, because reading also the messages at the beginning helped me understand, the reasons on why people is using us.
Right.
So it gives a lot of customer insights. And I remember, so those first day, that bell was exciting. Then I totally remember the first day, that I went to the house of a friend and I will see on the lobby, one of our boxes.
Right.
And I will say, wow, I have seen it. And then, as also in the first years, friends, etc., they will send me flowers a photo when they will see a rider, of us. So those kind of things, I think that sometimes when you are in the business, you kind of give it for granted.
Yeah.
But then those sometimes when something external pops up when you are not expecting it, I think, that those things give you a little moment of reflection. And then also, to me also, I will always say the thing that I love the most is when someone tells you, I have used you, and I have helped, especially, stories of people that don't have any other option, OWs, etc. And when you read about their stories, sometimes, and can be even a bit very emotional.
That's
and
true.
then, those emotional things.
Do you have a favorite
customer?
testimonial?
No, to be honest, from a customer messages, etc. At the very beginning, we were reading them to understand. Now we don't really read them because they are printed automatically, etc. But so now really what I understand is from a customer feedback. After the order, we like to ask everyone, how did you feel? How was it? Just share anything. And I read all of them, that's always my first thing I do in the morning. And, to me especially, there are some of these ones, I had, my mom, we lost my dad a few months ago, and this year my mom didn't have anyone. So we decided, to do it ourselves, and, still making it look like my dad with a mess. Those kind of, there are some days that some of those stories are it gives you something,
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Before all of this, imagine, from aerospace engineering to finance,
pricing,
pricing, and then becoming a CFO for Lazada. Were you into flowers yourself?
No, the reality, is that if you have asked me probably 5 years before, I will have tell you, no way. I think that the first time I actually sent flowers was already being in the Philippines, and because my family is in Spain. So then it's I understand that use case when you don't have, a way. It's then sending, a plant or sending some flowers. It's something that really, even if your mom will tell you, you don't need to, things, then I know, that all the neighbors have seen the bouquet and everything, and I think, I had only used it a few times as a user, but then, already you realize the first time you use it, and you get the feedback from the recipient, you realize on how powerful it is.
Yeah.
Because I'm really curious if Saul is romantico.
I wouldn't say I'm that romantic on that sense. It was more by accident.
By accident. And it's really a happy accident. Serendipity.
Yes.
So what is the future of Flowerstore.ph now?
Yeah, so for us, it's I still think that we are just getting started. It's there are so many, new products, new categories that we also want to test in Potico. We just launched a few months ago, we call it Potico Gift Experiences. So actually this is, you receive a box, okay? And for example, there is a box that is dinner for two. So inside of it, you are going to have a booklet where you have like 50 different options with restaurants we have already partnered. And then the recipient can choose, like where to redeem it. So we call these experiences. If you want to gift something that is not material, but is like an experience, there is adventure, hotels, restaurants, etc. So this is one of the new categories like we are launching now that we are very excited about, because, like when you do flowers, it reaches a point. We have now over 1,000 different bouquets. We always try to come with new innovations, but there are a point that you cannot do a lot more. And I will say that the innovations from the floral side are more on how can we improve our operations so we can decrease our prices, so we can reach more people. That's always kind of like our obsession. Right. But then, like on the overall gifting space, there are still like many new categories, on personalized, especially on these experiences. I think that is where we are going to be launching and growing more over the next year.
Right.
Yeah. Vanya, there's another thing that I'm really interested in. Because I saw actually when I was going through, the preparation before we met Saul earlier. I heard also that the company is also offering this, are you familiar with the meme?
Shout
like
out.
the shout out, from this African greetings. And then, the happy birthday. I heard that they're also
you have that?
offering that type of service.
Who thought about it?
So actually like this is something that, because as I mentioned, we also operate kind of a marketplace trying to find other gifts that other people do that are, that I consider that it's a good gift. So many times, I do a lot of research checking around the world. And I remember that I saw this and I found it very funny. And I was like, okay, we talk with the company saying, will you be interested on being on our platform? And when we get an order, we give it to you, you prepare. And, they were happy with it. And actually, it's one of the products that we sell across like the different countries. So we are,
oh my God, that's so interesting.
It's a regional play, and overall, I'm always looking on what are new products and new things that people will be excited. So for example, this week I was talking, with our commercial head, and I was thinking, it's like, do you know like a gift that will be like really good? Like being able to do a harana. That you also can do a harana. So nice. They can bring the flowers or not, and sing some song. So I'm always trying to think on what is an original gift that no one yet is offering, or that maybe someone is offering, but it's very complicated to book, to find, etc. So we really want to be we want to be the gifting platform.
Wait, I have an idea for you. The car gift surprise, where there's something at the back of the car. Diba? We can find that on Flowerstore.
Yeah. So actually, like always trying, what I want in the long term is that when someone thinks on they need to buy a gift, they know that coming to us, they are going to find something unique or something really fit for that recipient.
That's so good. Yes. That's so good. Grabe.
If you want to pursue the harana, I can do that for you.
Correct.
Yeah, I heard that you are a good singer. Carlo was sharing with me.
Oh, really? Yeah, but that was way back. But we really had a great time. Thank you for sharing your success story with us.
Congratulations.
Congratulations on your success. What a way to take the risk from your first career to where you are now in the Philippines. You have really injected the gift of giving in our culture. So now, please reintroduce yourself, plug your business, and let them know more about Flowerstore. Here.
Yes. I'm Saul Molla, the founder of Flowerstore.ph and Potico.ph, and we are there to help you with any gifts that you may need to send to your loved ones.
Okay, so one last question before we end this. What is the most exciting thing about doing Flowerstore or gifting here in the Philippines?
Knowing that you can help other people connect with each other.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yes.
Grabe, no? Sobrang happy talaga ako dun sa pinag-usapan natin today. Pero I never realized how complicated it was to send flowers.
Yeah.
Diba?
Super.
Parang ang hirap pala. Parang we all think about the end product, but we never really thought about the process of it coming to your house as a surprise. I've received so many Flowerstore orders already from my house. So thank you so much for that one. Thank you so much for thinking about this specific product and the emotions that come with it. Dahil
Yes.
tayo mga Pinoy ay talagang emotional na tao, right?
Yeah, 100% agree on that. Vanya. All right, thank you once again, Saul. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
O mga boss, we hope you enjoyed this episode. O ano pa hinihintay mo? Sendan or bilhan mo ng flower ang mga mahal mo sa buhay.
Dahil deserve nila yan.
And always remember, every boss,
Starts with a benta.
this is Benta Bosses.
I started
The
using
first thing I
Quotable
ever
6
sold was
Feel if
But that
tinuloy siya.
industry's tough.
From unang benta to boss.
So, ready ka na ba? Visit QuotableAI.
From quote to payment, they've got the systems to turn your hustle into a milestone.
Follow us on our socials to stay updated on the next boss we're bringing to the table.
Subscribe to Benta Bosses on your favorite podcast platform and share this with another aspiring entrepreneur.
This has been Benta Bosses.